it towards you. So you can speak into this side of the microphone. I can speak into that side of the microphone. The cameras are up here. I got to start. Make sure that's in the right setting.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
L. What does L stand for? Linear. L stands for linear. That's right where we need to be. Linear.
Okay.
The GoPro is there for backup in case this shuts off.
All right.
The GoPro has great quality sound and visuals.
Excellent. You got a setup, G.
Yeah. What do you think so far?
Yeah,
we're going to be looking at the camera.
Okay.
You'll occasionally find yourself looking down here, which is fine.
Yeah.
At least it's in the ballpark.
Okay.
You know, we're not looking over here.
Yeah.
You know,
staring into the distance.
Up there when the camera's right
here.
Yeah. Okay. See, I got a lot going on right now already.
Okay, yeah.
So, I'm just going to be stumbling and fumbling over here.
That's fine. That's
pretty much how I do this. Okay.
It's good. It's raw.
Yeah. We got the GoPro going. We have the camera going. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people from all over the world, welcome to the G Money Podcast. I have Marinus here for episode number 3 of the G Money Podcast interviews. Hello, Marinus.
Yeah. Hi, G. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So to give the people just a little bit of background, my viewers, I would say, are mostly Utica people. Mm-hmm. Although I'm trying to broaden my demographic.
Yeah.
You know, Utica people resonate with me and I resonate with them. So, to give them a little bit of background, Marinus is from South Africa. Marinus, if you could, give me a little bit of information about your childhood, what it's like growing up in South Africa, how it compares to America. I guess I am interested in your life.
Yeah.
Because I think you're an interesting person, first of all.
Thanks.
Second of all, because you're from South Africa, I'm just curious myself.
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of information about your background.
I mean, I feel like everyone has a little bit of context for South Africa. In America, the context generally looks like, oh, wow, strong racism, segregation past, and then also the country was kind of a pioneer for worldwide legislation and reconciliation. It was kind of like the first experiment in that, kind of coming from an era of where that was normal and slavery was normal and it was part of how the world functioned. And moving then into a society that is a lot more focused on, egalitarianism. Everyone has an equal opportunity and has an equal shot at life. So I grew up in a generation in South Africa that was I was born the first year that we were considered a free country.
Wow.
So my generation is seen as kind of a pioneering generation in terms of building a country that we'd like to see.
Okay.
And then from my perspective, I grew up in a white South African household. Okay. So there's many different spectrums and many different aspects to being South African. And I only have like one portion of it.
Sure.
But if you would take South Africa and take 10 or 12 cultures from all across the world and toss them into a mixing pot, that's what you get. Kind of similar to Utica.
Okay.
But the past is very volatile and very... it's still very recent,
So you say free country, and that was the year you were born is the first year the country you would say was free.
Yeah, 1994 we had our first democratic election where everyone was allowed to vote.
Okay, so let's get right into this then.
Yeah.
Before that time, who was not allowed to vote?
The majority of the country.
Except, okay, so let me rephrase that. Who was allowed to vote?
Yeah. Who was allowed to vote? I don't have the details legally exactly who was allowed to vote, but what it comes down to is white South Africans were allowed to vote.
Okay.
And black South Africans were not. And it's not always a question of black and white, but in South Africa, if you were black, you were in one group. If you were white, and you were in another group. If you're a mixed race of any kind, you're like shunned and you are completely illegal,
Wow.
Because
you didn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah, interracial relationships were illegal, but because one race was dominant, it was always the blame was always on the other race.
Okay.
Which is really painful, you know. Can you imagine being in that position?
Did you? No, I can't imagine being in that position. I
Me
never
neither.
have been in that position. Did you have, I guess, a lot of different kind of friends growing up, or was it white South African buddies growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends where in South Africa you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in Cape Town in the south of South Africa.
Let me pause. Let me stop you really quick before you go on. What is the population roughly of Cape Town, just as reference?
Oh, I think it's 11 million people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a big
large.
city.
Yeah, it's a
like-
big city.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up in a suburb of Cape Town.
Okay.
But generally, you know, Cape Town is Cape Town. Everything is pretty close to each other. But Cape Town itself, at least the suburb I grew up in, there's actually what we call in Afrikaans die boerewoord gordijn, which means like the sausage curtain. So you know how
Okay.
you know how you have
The
in
sausage
Russia you have like the iron curtain,
Yeah.
and so it's the same thing. There's like this suburb or like this line across the province, and on the one side it's Afrikaans white speaking people, which is where I'm from, very European culture, and would be the perpetrators, would be the oppressors of the previous regime.
Understood.
Very conservative, which I still consider myself, like from an ideology standpoint, relatively conservative, but they were very conservative, very nationalistic. So I guess if you would see Europe in the 40s, Germany in the 40s, 50s, 30s and 40s, that's kind of where a lot of that ideology came from.
Okay.
So I grew up with white friends, for sure.
Okay.
I had friends from all kinds of races, but at least on my dad's side, there was a lot of like lingering effects of apartheid. You know, not from my father himself, but I mean from my dad's line. They were a lot more conservative. My mom was a lot more liberal in their beliefs.
And did your mom come from a different part of the country?
Same part of the country, but different heritage.
Different heritage.
They have more of a. My mom has a Scottish heritage,
Okay.
and my dad has a German and French heritage.
Okay. Where does the sausage come into play?
Yeah, so it's a very traditional Afrikaner. When I say Afrikaner, it's in reference to the white South African people. It's people who fled Europe in the 1600s because of religious persecution.
Okay.
They were Protestants, and the Catholics didn't like them, so there was a religious war going on, and the Protestants were being hunted and killed by the Crusades, and so they fled to Africa. So they had to learn to survive, and a lot of our food is built around like survival. And so this sausage is a sausage that it's very tasty and very, but it's spiced in a way that it preserves the meat.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
it's a very specific Afrikaans sausage.
Sausage is very near and dear to Italians.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
Italian
okay.
heritage as well. I'm not sure if it's for the same reason.
Yeah.
I think the Italians like it because it's salty and simple and
Yeah.
inexpensive, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say that South Africa is a melting pot. Would you say that it was refugees? Would they be deemed as refugees that they come from different countries? They
No.
fled different countries?
I guess melting pot's not the right word. If I think of Utica's a melting pot.
Okay.
You know, there's like synergy. We're living together, preserving our cultures, but we live together.
Okay.
In South Africa, maybe melting pot's not the right word. Maybe it's more like a zoo.
Okay.
You know,
A zoo.
you have animals from all over the world,
Uh-huh.
but they don't mix.
Okay. They stay in their separate habitats.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
There's friction.
There is friction, yes, sadly. I mean, I'm idealistic. I wish there wasn't. I believe in a world where there isn't. But when you really get into the culture and you're like boots on the ground, the friction does make sense. And it's not always based on hatred or bias or racism even.
Okay. What took South Africa so long to change with the times?
a government that is looking to control, it's really hard to push back, you know.
Okay.
And then
Yes.
if you teach your people from a very young age, and you normalize this behavior, then you train the people not to fight back.
Okay.
I have a friend from Germany whose grandfather fought in the war for the Nazis, and he has his grandfather's journal. And as he read his grandfather's journal, he could walk with his grandfather through the process of the revelation of that what is happening in the country is evil.
That's powerful.
But it took deep introspection and humility, and not everyone has the space in their life for that.
And majority, right? You needed a majority of the population to understand that there is evil, and that a change is necessary.
Yeah,
it's not gonna. It takes one man, it takes one person, right? But they have to go and convince many others.
Yes, as much as we'd like to believe we're individuals, we're just not.
And that goes for any population.
Yeah.
So we're part of a working ecosystem.
Yeah, we get to choose which ecosystem we make ourselves a part of, but no one can function as an individual.
See, I struggle with that myself. You know, I understand that we're social animals, and at times I like to be alone. A lot of times I like to be alone, and I'm not sure if you can relate to that.
Yeah.
But it is necessary for us to fulfill what is natural to us, and that is socializing and communicating.
Yeah, I mean,
isolation is okay, but it's not. It's too much isolation can be too bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's things that happen in social places, in social environments that are essential to the human soul. You know, things like affirmation. Like, something different happens when there's a third party that affirms something in you.
Wow.
You can affirm it to yourself. You can look in the mirror. You can make all kinds of declarations. And although these things are powerful, outside encouragement is foundational to who we are. That's why we have parents, you know. It's like anybody who's grown up with parents who weren't affirming or parents who were absent can relate to the void that is left when your parents don't affirm you, you know?
Okay. And I think that might be why people enjoy podcasts. At least that's why I do enjoy podcasts, is because it could get lonely out here in these streets.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's something about listening to two people speak that feels comforting.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, that's why I've done a lot of podcasts in the past that's just been me on here.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think there's something human about a conversation like you and I are having right now and have had in the past. And that leads me to my next question. You've said a lot to me in our short amount of time knowing each other. You've said a lot to me. And this is my journal. This is something I wrote in my journal. You mentioned one time that when you have a vision, you will know it beyond a doubt. Okay. And this was in reference to your dad having a vision in regards to his business.
Yeah.
So I guess this isn't a question, more so can you just speak more on people knowing without a doubt that something is telling them to do something? You can refer back to your dad, or you can take it in your own life, or however you want to take it.
I guess it's helpful to clarify a vision my father had was from an external source. Right.
Okay.
So you have internal communication. It's like my internal dialogue. It's what I'm thinking about, how I'm formulating ideas, how I'm changing and shaping the way I see things. That's internal dialogue.
Okay.
So just think it's like a loop inside you.
Oh yeah.
And then
I live there all the time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
And it can be a great place and it can be a destructive place.
Of course.
And then you have external communication. It's from people, affirmation, blah, blah, blah. So this vision my father had, a spiritual experience, was was external communication, and that's important because I can formulate a vision for myself, and that thing can become so true to me, right? But if the source is from me, then how do I know it's true?
Wow. So deciphering whether it's an internal vision or an external vision.
Yeah. So that's where knowing comes in. I believe we were designed in a way, first of all, that's already sometimes a controversial statement, but I believe we were designed. And we were designed in a certain way. And when we are confronted with a link back to our original design, you know that you know that you know. And I think people who have had this experience will relate to that. And I think people who don't might still be on the journey of finding that, knowing that you know, where it becomes foundational. It immediately goes from something up here down to your foundation, and so then everything else becomes subservient to this.
Can these external visions come at any point, or do you need to be in a moment of conflict? Do you need to be in an uncomfortable setting, or can this just appear at any moment in time?
I think it comes and goes, and people either allow it into their lives or they don't.
So you're telling me that I have these things could have come to me in my life, but I could have been blind to them. You know, that $1 million idea just may have went right
in and out.
Yeah. And that's why I spend a lot of time trying to clear out things, and make room for the essentials, and make room for those visions.
Yeah, I mean, anything can be essential. Anything can you choose what's essential to you, right?
Which is a battle.
Yeah,
that's a battle.
It's true. Because some things want you to make them essential. So, or some people want you to make certain things essential.
Or yourself.
Or yourself
will start to lie to yourself.
I mean, we live in a society that is driven by achievement, and achievement is measured in dollars.
Yeah.
That has implications, right? And so I have a vested interest in you choosing my product as essential, whatever it is, whether it is advice, whether it's a physical product, whether it's an ideology. So G is in charge of G's essentials. No one else.
But you have a responsibility to convince me that whatever you're selling is essential. And I have the choice to decide whether that's essential to me or not.
Yeah.
And a good salesman or a good communicator might be able to manipulate you. Okay, let's talk about manipulation here for a second. Does it hold any value? Is there any advantage to it, or is all manipulation bad?
Well, I believe manipulation at its core is masking a lie.
Okay.
If it was true,
you and me
I wouldn't need to be sold on this, right?
Okay. So I'll relate that back to any sort of sales. One of the issues I have with sales is that a part of sales and communication is manipulation. But if you truly believe in your product, then there's no manipulation.
Yeah. There's a difference. There's a difference between sharing something that you're passionate about, and this is not in a business setting. I think a business setting is different, but I'm talking about like life in general. There's a difference between me coming here for my workout and sharing something from my life with you.
Yeah.
Right? In my mind, I'm a Christian, so in my mind, that looks like my connection with that is Jesus taking his body and breaking it like bread. So at the Last Supper, Jesus breaks the bread, right? This is the most controversial thing Jesus ever did. He breaks the bread and he hands it out, right? And he takes the wine and he passes the cup around. And he tells them, eat of my body, eat of my flesh, and drink of my blood, right? So relay that back to manipulation and sales and whatever. When I come here, I share, like I break the bread of my life for you, right? And you do the same for me.
Correct.
Or we don't. That determines like the level of relationship we have. But that's not sales. That's not manipulation, right?
Okay.
Sales and manipulation comes with an agenda.
There's no breaking bread.
No breaking bread. It's transactional.
You're taking bread. We're not sharing the bread.
No.
No.
I want you to pay X amount for bread that's worth less.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't want to live a transactional life.
I appreciate you saying that we're breaking bread when you come here, and it's not a transactional relationship. I strive for those type of interactions. All right. Speaking of interactions, I thought this would be a good idea to have this an interactive podcast with the viewers.
All right.
If you're comfortable in doing this, you've talked to me before about the vision of the Garden of Eden. Give me some description of the Garden of Eden in 101.
All right.
And so the viewer can kind of take a moment themselves too.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You okay in doing that?
Yeah. I'll walk us through the Garden of Eden story.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I love it.
So the Garden of Eden is it's a place, a physical place that you find right in the beginning of the Bible. And it's a home that God created for mankind, for humans, right? And in this home, he created all kinds of things. He created the plants, he created the animals, he created time, he created sun and the moon and the stars, which all have different purposes. And at first, the waters were bursting up from the earth, and that's how the plants were receiving their nutrients and water. And then he decided to make the heavens and the clouds, and that it will rain. And so this is a beautiful story of how the Lord crafted, how God, imagine this person crafting creation.
Can I pause you right?
Yeah.
Earlier you talked about design. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Continue.
And this is not just an art piece. This is not just abstract art. It's functional too.
Okay.
Right.
Love it.
So it's two pieces. It's there's almost a problem solving aspect to it. It's functional and it's beautiful. Right. Then he creates Adam. At that point, Adam is just Adam, human. And as he's created Adam, he is looking for a companion. He realizes Adam needs a companion. And so none of the animals or the plants that he created are fit to be Adam's companion. The word he uses is Ebenezer, Adam's comforter, Adam's helper, right? Like essential helper, not just like you're my personal assistant helper. This is like God is looking to bring someone into Adam's life that is essential to who he is.
Okay.
Nothing can suffice. So God puts Adam to sleep. He realizes only Adam can be Adam's helper. And so he puts Adam to sleep. And he takes Adam's rib out from Adam. Now Adam was made out of the soil of the earth. So God doesn't go back into the soil and make another Adam. He takes from Adam's body, he takes a rib. And he makes Eve. Adam was made in God's image, right? And Eve as well. Adam is God's male side. The masculine side of God. Was initially both. The rib was removed, and along with it everything that is feminine. And then you had Adam and you had Eve. Fully masculine, fully feminine, together, and no longer could they be without each other.
So the rib played a huge part
Yes.
in existence.
Absolutely essential.
Essential.
Yeah.
Because without the rib, it's not essential. It's not a part of the design.
And without the rib, the coming together of Adam and Eve wouldn't be a reunification. So when Adam and Eve are in unity, when they're in a, I'm using a lot of like Bible and church terms, but
It's okay.
when they are in a covenant, meaning like the deepest form of commitment to one another, it's a complete reunification of God's creation. Because they were once one.
Okay.
And God is still creating from his own image. So,
Today. Every
Today,
day.
but I mean while he was making Eve. Because
Okay.
what's happening between Adam and Eve is also what's happening between man and God. Because we were made in his image. Essentially, he took his rib and he made Adam. Then he took Adam's rib and he made Eve. And so now as Adam and Eve get to know each other, we learn more about man and God knowing each other. And so that's why marriage is such a essential part of my spiritual life.
Right.
My marriage with my wife is an essential part of my marriage with God. By marriage, I mean like complete integration, yeah.
Because in the Garden of Eden is where all of our marriages began.
Absolutely.
And we're just keeping the party going,
Yep.
really.
Yep.
It's been a good party.
Well, just think of the desire you have for your wife before you were even married to her. Like, I'm not going to allow you to sit here and tell me you didn't have a deep desire for your wife.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I did. So, this desire between two humans is a physical manifestation of the desire between God and man.
So this is the most fundamental desire. And then, okay. Does the intent is the desire eventually turns to love? Or are they disconnected?
The desire is a function of love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And love. We'll get to love. We'll get to love another
All right,
time.
we can go further into
Let's continue
because it's not
on
all
with-
sunshine and roses in the Garden of Eden.
I know. Right.
Big surprise, guys.
Right, big surprise coming.
Yeah. All right, so in the garden, it is complete. There's complete peace. It says Adam and Eve were walking with the Lord in the cool of the day. Sometimes I just like to sit down and just think of that phrase. Like,
Say it again.
Like Adam and Eve were walking with God in the cool of the day. So, I mean, it's like the ultimate vacation.
Sounds like a vacation.
It sounds like a vacation.
The cool of the day.
Yeah.
And walking.
Just being. Just being.
Just
being. There's no agenda. God is not trying to pull the right strings so he will be worshipped by them. They are not trying to understand, how do I please this creature, this well, God's not a creature, but he's a person. How do I please this person so that he can bless me, or that he can protect me, or that he won't be mad at me? So there's none of these like dysfunctional relational dynamics happening between God and man at that point. None.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do Adam and Eve know God? Because we, right now as it stands, like, God is this, I don't want to use mysterious, but like,
He's mysterious.
he's mysterious, right? Do Adam and Eve know of him? Like, they know him, right? They see
They're
him.
communing with him. You really need to stretch your imagination to get to that point.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So they are not talking to him in English. They're not talking to him in Hebrew. Like this is like the initial phase of creation, right? So it looks different than what we have now.
Oh yeah.
So this is not like going down to Kirkland Town Park out in Clinton and walking in the cool of the day there and praying.
Praying in English using language and
and all the desires and things that I have. No, this is completely different.
Okay.
This is a relationship that is built on complete unity with God. They are not God, but they're in complete unity with God.
Before shit hit the fan, basically.
That's true, yes.
Okay.
And they do know him, and he knows them. In fact, the phrase "know" is also used in the Bible to describe when man and woman have intercourse.
Wow.
And so, when I have intercourse with my wife, I know her, because no one knows her the way I know her, and no one knows me the way she knows me.
Okay.
And there are few things as beautiful as that. It's two people knowing each other more intimately than anyone else knows each person. It's the foundation of our oneness, is that we've made this commitment to each other.
Because the knowing started with Adam and God.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's why, just like I don't believe it's healthy for my spirit to have multiple wives, it's not healthy for my spirit to have multiple gods.
Because you can't know everybody.
There's
too many people.
I only have so much knownness that I can
There's only
give
one
away.
know, right? Yeah.
So if I give all, so okay, now they're in the garden. They know God, and God knows them. It's peaceful. Adam has named the animals. This is very crucial. God has allowed Adam to name the animals. By naming, it's not like, how are we going to get Lion to come? It's not like we call our dog Spot or Ben.
Duchess.
Or Duchess.
Okay.
Right? No, this is infusing identity. So God is co-creating with man to instill identity into the animals.
And he's letting Adam do this.
He's doing it with Adam, yes.
He's doing it with Adam, okay.
Yeah, because they're doing everything together. They cannot do anything without each other, right? I mean, they can, but they choose not to.
Okay.
There's a beauty in being able to and choosing not to. There's no beauty in just controlled slavery.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson says something along the lines like, there's nothing scarier than someone who can perform evil but chooses not to. Or a bad man that chooses to be good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
then the fateful day comes.
The fateful day comes, yes.
I feel like everyone has some context for this fateful day, but
let's hear your context.
Well, at that time, there's a tree stuck slap bang in the middle of the garden. Adam and Eve, they're surviving from the fruits of the garden, right? From the fruits of the trees that God is sustaining. But the Lord tells him, do not eat from that tree. Right? This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the serpent comes. We have no context for this character outside of the serpent, right? So the serpent comes, and he convinces man. He speaks to Eve, but that's completely irrelevant, right? Some people try to make that relevant, or they try to change things. The fact is, man made this decision together. Mankind.
Right.
He convinces, he manipulates, he sells the idea that if you would have the knowledge of good and evil, you would be like God.
You know, it's a good sell.
It's a good sell if you're naive, because they were already like God.
Oh man, so the serpent is trying to convince us of something we already have, and that's the story of my life, man.
He's trying to convince you to earn something that you've already been given.
Okay. I know how the story ends, but let's continue.
All right, don't spoil it for me.
Okay.
Okay, so then Big surprise. They both want to be like God. And so they eat from that tree. And in that moment, the promise God made to them was, if you would eat from that tree, you would surely die. He's not saying I will kill you. He's saying you will die. You are cutting yourself off from what is sustaining you. Like you are choosing to disconnect yourself from life itself. Because when they did eat from that tree, they didn't, their life didn't end, their physical life, the way our perception is about death. Because if God tells me, if you eat from that tree, or if you drink an energy drink, you will surely die. In my mind's eye, when I drink that drink, I'm just going to drop dead on the sidewalk in Genesee Street, and my clothes will be
DPW is going to come and sweep you up. And,
Yep.
Okay.
They will loot all my clothes from me.
I might even take that sweater.
That's
from
right.
you,
The
to
guy
be
who's
honest
a
with you.
size 8.5 will take my Ultra Boosts.
Yeah,
big,
those might be mine too.
a big score. But that's not what happened. So here's two people who are now dead, and they flee from God because of the shame of what they've done. They've just cheated on their bridegroom. And so he's like, where are you? Where are you? He's looking for them in the garden.
My favorite part coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And he asks them the most interesting questions. So Adam and Eve immediately cover themselves up, right? They're not wearing clothes. There's no Tommy jeans or there's no brand names or nothing in the garden here. They're just completely in the nude, like all the animals. And this is a symbol of their vulnerability towards each other because it's so safe. There's complete peace. They cover themselves up. They hide their nakedness. And God asks them, who told you you were naked? Who convinced you that you were vulnerable to attack? Who told you that you need to protect yourselves? Who convinced you that you need to protect yourself from me because of what you've done? And this is the story of our lives. I am spending my life running away from God, covering my nakedness, because I am so deeply convinced that if he sees me in my nakedness, he will destroy me. And therefore I'm on the run from God.
So the moment the everything changed for us is when God asked the question, who told you you were naked? He didn't say it exactly like that, but
well, the moment everything changed was when
the serpent came to the party.
Yeah, but we're not a victim to the serpent because they had free will.
Okay, I like that. I like that and I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that, because I feel like a lot of our issue is being the victim of an external event or of the serpent. But at the end of the day, we still have the choice to listen to the serpent or not.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible doesn't say this. This is me.
This is Marinus?
This is me.
Okay.
Right? This is not God.
Okay.
But we don't know if that's the first time or the only time the serpent ever tried to convince them to eat from that tree.
Ooh. So you think they might have been hiding something?
Well, the experience I have in my life about the serpent means he doesn't just try once and leave.
Right.
He's persistently trying to manipulate me into believing something that's not true. Because the Bible sketches the serpent as the father of lies. God is everything that is true. Everything that is cohesive, that's God. Everything that is frayed and false, that is the enemy. That is the devil. That is evil.
And we have the free will to pick between the two. We have the free will to know the difference and then choose.
Yes. If it was that simple, the world would be a better place. But that's what it boils down to.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's the Garden of Eden.
That's the Garden of Eden. And then the story goes on from there.
They get cursed. Here's the last part. This is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So God looks at man, and he curses Adam, he curses Eve, and he curses the serpent. So the curse Adam receives is that, this is ad lib, but the curse Adam receives is that he will work the soil of the earth
Mm-hmm.
by the sweat of his brow all the days of his life.
Mm-hmm.
In stark contrast to what he was experiencing in the garden.
Right.
When he was leaving all of his provision, all of his safety, his sustenance, his existence, his being, he was leaving it up to God. He had a certain life.
Mm-hmm.
When he took that burden upon himself by eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, he all of a sudden had a different life. Now he's toiling by the sweat of his brow, the soil of the earth, to survive. Eve receives the curse, and I don't know what to make of this because I'm not an Eve.
Mm-hmm.
But Eve receives the curse that the long and the short is that childbirth will be painful to her. At least that's what I remember right now. I think there's more in there, but
Mm-hmm.
and the serpent receives the curse that he will be on his belly for the rest of his life, slithering along the earth on his belly
Mm-hmm.
in the dirt and the grime, that he will bruise the heel of man,
Mm-hmm.
and man will step on his head. Right? So he will suffer at the foot of man,
Mm.
but he will bruise
Oh,
the heel.
okay.
So think of Achilles' heel. You know the story of Achilles, and his only weak point was his heel.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of like, that's from like Greek mythology and you know the Roman culture, but the truth is, if I just snip your Achilles' heel, you're completely, you're done for.
Yeah. You can't.
So that's
move.
not by accident.
Okay.
The Lord didn't choose the heel because it was the first thing that popped up in his head when he was angry and cursing these creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Everything there is intentional. Just like he designed me and you and humans in a very intentional, specific way, every part of the creation story is intentional. Okay, that is the end of the Garden of Eden.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's not my job, and it's not your job to make the story of the Bible
Mm-hmm.
entertaining. Not entertaining. Yes, let's go for it. Entertaining
Yeah.
for kids, for people our age.
Yeah.
But we can do it.
Why not? Well, either it is or it isn't entertaining.
What do you mean? Like we can't put our own sauce on it?
Yeah, we can put our own sauce on it and make it. I guess maybe either it is or isn't entertaining is not the right word because entertaining is so subjective.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's action-packed. And it goes under the radar.
Yes, it goes under
It
the
did
radar.
for me. For the first 16
Sure.
years of my life. No,
Same.
longer. First 17, 18 years of my life, it flew so under the radar. It was as much as entertaining as filling out my taxes.
Yeah, I agree. How long? How many years?
Until when I was 18, I first really started to pay any attention to, like, oh, wow, there's more to this than just some Bible characters and shame about not being able to live like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to live this perfect life. Because that's all, those two things was all it represented for me.
Yeah, I didn't even give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even do any research on it, honestly. Like, I grew up in a Catholic family. My grandfather was very involved in the church. I didn't listen to the stories. I went to church,
Yeah.
and I listened to my grandfather, but I didn't listen and apply.
Yeah.
I didn't find any interest, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean here, and that's kind of the reason why I got you onto this podcast, because you've made it understandable and interesting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have, but
Yeah.
you specifically have made it interesting to me, and I think it's valuable, and I think a lot of people can find refuge in anything that they're going through with their life if they were to just listen to the story.
Yeah. Well,
and
the thing
take
is,
it.
like, either it's true or it's not. Either the whole book is completely true,
or
it's all
all-
a piece of garbage and it belongs in the trash. There
Okay.
is no, when it comes to truth, there is no in between. There's nuance, this way, that way, interpretation, blah, blah, blah. But you need to have the initial presumption that this is completely true or completely false. Because the Word of God is not compatible with any other spirituality. So you cannot, you can't dose it. It's not like a mixer. It's like red wine. You don't put ice in it. You don't put bitters in it.
you drink it
You
as
don't put
it is.
some
And maybe
lemon
that's-
zest.
Maybe that's why wine is the blood of God.
Maybe.
Because it's untarnished. You don't mix it
Maybe.
with anything.
Yeah, you don't.
But you get drunk off of it, and that's maybe,
Exactly.
well,
I mean, the Bible speaks of drunkenness when the Holy Spirit was poured out on the disciples on the day of Pentecost. The people who were not experiencing this pouring out of the Spirit because they didn't put their faith in Jesus when he was on earth, they looked at these people and said they were drunk as drunkards on wine. There was an intoxication, a spiritual intoxication.
So,
But that's a complete rabbit hole.
yeah, it's interesting. We'll maybe we won't go down this road, but alcohol and drugs
Yeah.
have been relevant for forever,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, if you go back to the most ancient of ancient cultures, you find it.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit here.
All
We're
right.
46 minutes in.
Man, time flies, huh?
Time flies. Okay, so let's go back to Utica.
Yeah.
What were you expecting growing up as a South African kid? What was your perspective of the United States, and what was some things you were right, and what were some things you were wrong? How long have you been in the U.S. for?
I've done 2 stints in the US.
Mhm.
I did 2 years in California, Northern California, and then now I've been back for 10 months, just under a year.
Just under a year. Okay.
So I spent about
It's
2.5
so funny,
years in
dude.
America.
It's so funny. Like, how many miles? I mean, you don't have to. We'll say South Africa's
Yeah.
It's far away.
Oh yeah, it's completely removed. Let's put it that way. It's completely removed.
But I feel like there's parts of getting to know you that I feel like you grew up on Albany Street where I grew up.
Mm-hmm. Why? Because we're human.
We're human.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We're going to have similarities.
We're gonna
and
have human
differences.
experiences.
Human
Yeah,
experiences.
for sure.
Yeah, man. Let me find out you were on Pond Lane. That's where I don't know. You confuse
That's your
me
turf?
sometimes. Yeah, you confuse me. I'm like, okay. Okay, so yes. What were some things that you thought about the U.S. that
Yeah.
were right and some things that you were
Perceptions.
wrong? Perceptions, yeah.
So I have an interesting history with the US. My father came to the US after his years of conscription, fighting for South Africa and fighting as a soldier for South Africa's nationalist government against the communists trying to come in through Angola via Cuba and Russia. Right, so everyone had to fight in that war. It was a brutal war. My father fought in that war, came out of there, and so he was working in the military field, in the defense field at the time, and he backpacked in America for a long time, 8 months or a year or something.
Cool.
Went everywhere across America, and that was a very fundamental part of my upbringing. Our culture in South Africa is very narrative. Storytelling plays a very, very big role in our culture and our family life. And so I would just be enamored by my father's stories about when he was in America. But it was a very idealistic view of America, I'd say, because at the time, America was also a very conservative country and run by conservative people who had a very militant outlook on life and a very militant look. Militant's maybe not the right word. A very they approach geopolitics from their military power, right? To some degree, it's still like that, but it's changed quite a bit. And so I had a perception about America, and the core perception I had and still have about America is their capacity to innovate and to stay progressive in all spheres of life. There is a drive in all Americans to progress.
Okay.
Sometimes we're progressing in one direction and it turns out not to be progress, and we change and we go into another direction. But the point is, the Americans have an innate desire to push ahead, to forge onward. And if you come to America, you either buy into that, catch up and push along, or you kind of fall through the cracks of society and get left behind. Those are the two options. So that perception was very strong in my mind, and when I came here, that's what I found.
Okay.
In terms of Utica, I didn't really have a grid for Utica. I knew they had like a very strong refugee community and a lot of different cultures, and it's been one of the most beautiful things for me to see that done well. For it to be a melting pot instead of a hostile environment or a clashing of cultures or always a fight for domination. Because that's what I'm used to when you talk about multiple cultures or multicultural societies. The first words that come to my mind are like culture clashes, culture wars, power, greed, domination, very negative things in my mind.
So you came here you came here understanding that combining cultures may not be a positive thing, and you come here in Utica and it tends to be so.
Yeah, I mean, experiencing it to be positive has been revelatory for me.
Does the ability and the desire to be progressive, is that something that's you have always aspired to be? And like when you came to Utica, did you put your foot on the gas? When you came to the US, was your foot on the gas? You kept it on the gas?
I think my foot's been on the gas for a while before coming to Utica, but I think there's just a part of maturing where you realize that you need. I believe that I need to live. I get to choose where I live from. I get to choose what's essential to me. But there's a part of maturing that you start to really take ownership of that decision. And so that's when I really put my foot on the gas about becoming progressive, and not progressive in a political sense. I am completely apolitical. That's my desire, at least. That's what I strive for, is to be apolitical.
Yeah, I've gotten that from you. So
that's good.
Nice job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But progressive in the sense that I need to be willing to shake off anything that needs to be shaken. Anything that constricts or holds back on what I'm pursuing, I need to be able to drop it, in a second. And that's an attitude. That's an approach to life. That's yeah. It's an essential part of Christianity too. It's at the core of Christianity is allowing God to prune you. It's the picture that the Bible uses is a picture of pruning. So you have this vine, and the vine just wants to make a lot of grapes.
Yeah.
But if you allow that to make any grape it wants to make, you're going to have tiny little grapes that you can barely see. When you eat them, they're impossible to eat. It's not sweet. It's not nutritious. It's just annoying. And so then the farmer needs to come, and he needs to prune the vine in such a way that when springtime comes and the vine sets its flowers, preparing where fruit's going to be, that the farmer is setting the vine up for success.
So, subtraction, subtracting things out of your life. It goes back to the conversation of understanding what's essential and what's not essential, what's getting in your way.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions here for you. What advice would you give to your 12-year-old self?
Oof. Don't eat the apple.
Did you eat the apple? You didn't eat the apple, did you? We kind of did, right?
Everybody eats the apple.
We ate the apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, we ate the apple. Now what?
Yep.
Just keep going?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Well, you can. If you really love working the soil by the sweat of your brow, if you really love it so much, go ahead.
Okay, one more question.
I don't love it. So
Don't love.
I don't love toiling
No.
in the soil. I don't.
No,
So.
I mean, occasionally when I want to, yeah, I'll go and, till.
Yeah.
I'll mow the lawn
Yeah.
and stuff, but I want to do that on my own terms.
Exactly. You want your free will back.
Yeah.
Because Adam was working the garden.
But not by the sweat of his brow.
No.
There was no sweat being had.
He wasn't enslaved.
He wasn't enslaved.
He was free.
All right. Well, people, I'd imagine people have a lot more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have more questions and reference anything that we spoke about, let me know. I'm sure you do. I do. Okay. Wait, I told you I had one more question. Okay. The inner citadel, having an inner council.
Yeah.
So one of the methods that I've been reading about is when you're trying to make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a council of people in your mind
Yeah.
that you're running.
A council of characters or like people
Characters.
you know. Or...
It doesn't matter. I have both.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What to you? I guess for someone who's looking for a mentor or a counselor or something like that, what would you suggest to somebody? What's a good mentor?
Like, how do you go about filtering out people?
Yeah. What are you looking for? I mentorship has been huge for me.
Uh-huh.
Not only having mentors, but mentoring other people.
Mm.
What should they be? What should someone look for?
Well,
or you've mentored people before, and you've talked to me about this,
yeah,
right? And one of the things I believe you said was trust, and I don't want to steal any of your shine. So yes, continue on with just mentorship and things like that.
Right. So what am I looking for? If I'm looking for a mentor, I would say, whoever this person is, that their home life is in order, because there's something to be said for integrity.
Wow.
There's something to be said for you. We are one being. I can't have my spirit in a healthy place, my soul in a healthy place, but my body is suffering. When my body suffers, everything else suffers. I'm not three individual parts. I'm a whole. Right? So if I'm looking for a mentor, it doesn't matter how healthy one of my mentor's parts look. Like, oh wow, this guy is just, so successful in a certain area. If you allow someone to mentor you, you're going to become like that person. And you need to realize that. You need to realize that you can't help it. You cannot help if you let someone into your life in a mentorship role.
Break bread.
Exactly. Someone's going to break bread. If you're going to eat of that person's bread, you're going to become like them. Right? So, every part of this person's life needs to be in a place where you can say, I admire that, I want to be like that. So, and that all coincides with home life. Like family life, relation with his or her spouse. So to me it comes down to like when no one is watching, when this person is just up to themselves, what's the fruit of their life? Not when they're doing their best to absolutely polish everything, because everyone can to some degree achieve this beautiful image, especially in today's world. So when I'm looking for mentors, it's not something you take lightly, because whoever you choose, you're going to become like. So Paul in the Bible says, when he's writing to his brothers and sisters in Christ, his co-believers, his people who are overseeing people in churches. So Paul started churches, and he is writing to them letters, and we get to read those letters in the Bible. And so he writes to them, he says to them, imitate me as I imitate Christ. So this image is universal to humanity, right? So if you're going to be mentored by someone, you're going to become like them just as they're becoming like other people. So for me personally, the highest, the ultimate is Jesus, right? So that's the person who I put on a pedestal and I worship him as perfect. It's pretty extreme language, but it's that extreme. And so anyone who I am going to imitate, anyone who, and I don't mean that in a fake way, like fake it till you make it.
Yep.
I mean like let someone speak into your life from their life. When they do break the bread, eat from it. Allow that to break down into your life, become nutrients, and grow again. And grow you. Whoever I'm doing that to better be imitating Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Or else you're going to be growing weeds. We want to grow roses in through here.
I'm going to be growing shoots that will have no fruit.
Okay, one last thing is you just have to do me this favor. You have to repeat the sausage curtains, how you say that. And
all right. Are you going to try say it?
Sure.
All right. It's boerewors.
Boerewors.
Perfect, yeah.
Boerewors.
Marinus. It means farmer's sausage.
Boerewors.
Yes, there we go.
Marinus, appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
It's been an honor. I enjoy your podcasts, really.
Yeah, he's also a viewer too, so that's.
And I also want to take this moment, G, to say anyone who is enjoying G's content online, do yourself a favor, come out to Studio Athletics, meet the man, and hear what he's all about. I kind of accidentally met him because my wife works on the bottom floor of the building where he runs his business from, and I have been so touched and so changed by every interaction from you. For real. I was driving here and I was thinking to myself, man, the consistency that you have in your life and the discipline by which you live your life has affected me physically. I'm one of his clients. You train me to be fit. But beyond that, as my body has become fit and as I've approached my physical health with a more disciplined approach, just led by you, my emotions and my spiritual life have become more fit and more disciplined. And that comes back to what I was saying earlier about being one, being that all three parts of me are in alignment at all times. And so I want to thank you because there's a part of you that you've broken off and you've given to me, and it's bearing fruit in my life.
Kind words, and they mean a lot to me, and it is my pleasure to break bread with you.
Thank you.
And your wife. Let's an amazing woman, amazing girl, and that speaks volumes to who you are as a man too.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Marinus,
and thank you for everyone for listening.
Yes.
Giving us a time of day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people from all over the world, that is a wrap from the G Money Podcast. Thank you, Marinus. Over and out.
Cheers.
Peace.